I was harmed, my life was harmed. He completely destroyed me and he was proud of it. Our elites and people who are at the front of this work, they have to be held accountable. It's the silence of scholars and lack of accountability and complete scrutiny that creates monsters.
We've got a woman, which I've given you a track record of the very bizarre things she's saying, and there seems to be a psychological issue. There has to be. I trusted you. I treated you like my own sister, and I took on your word, and you lied and deceived myself. You have brought Islam into this, not Mohammed Hijab. No, with all due respect, you have put and tried your best to throw Islam under the bus.
This is just really unnecessary to be out in the public in the first place.
It was started in secret from what she has said herself. So yeah, keep it that way and there's no need to go public.
I grew up being told Islam was the solution, the cure to society's moral chaos. Unlike the corruption of the secular material West or the decay of other religions, Islam's divine law would lead to a just society. If something terrible happened, like a man manipulating a woman into sex under false pretenses, Islam would either prevent it from happening or provide justice when it did. And yet, a recent scandal has revealed Islam's failings to do either. Earlier this month, a Muslim YouTube channel called Behind Veils posted a video with a shocking accusation leveled at Mohammed Hijab, a UK-based Muslim social media personality known for his bombastic self-confidence and his aggressive approach towards critics of Islam in debates. The accusation? Testimony from a Muslim woman who adopted the pseudonym of Aisha, that Hijab deceived and manipulated her into a secret marriage with him as his second wife so he could just use her for sex, which if true is haram in Islam and beyond Islamic law, an awful thing to do to another person. Now, Hijab has denied this woman's story, and shortly after the accusation became public, a video was posted from an anonymous YouTube channel called False Accusations. The video is titled Behind Obsession, the troubling story of a stalker fixated on Mohammed Hijab. Allegedly, this video has messages and voice recordings of Aisha that present her as a mentally unstable woman who proposed marrying Hijab and then sought revenge against him when she didn't get what she wanted. So who to believe? Here's where it gets even more complicated. Ali Dawah, a popular Muslim YouTuber who also happens to be friends with Hijab, revealed he'd interviewed Aisha before the scandal ever broke out, but then discovered her story was a lie. And then he called out Salman Atiki, the Muslim who shared Aisha's story in the Behind Veils channel, as a hypocrite because Salman had cheated on his now ex-wife and beaten her, allegedly, which then led to Salman lashing back at Ali Dawah. What a mess. But this video isn't about tracking every twist in this drama. You can pause here if you want to watch the links in the description and go down that rabbit hole. I want to zoom out and explore a deeper problem about Islam that this whole scandal has brought up inconveniently for Muslims. Muslim YouTubers have chimed in on what exactly went wrong to lead to this scandal and who is at fault, with their main objective being to defend Islam. I watched the videos of several Muslim YouTubers, and the central theme was that the scandal is due to flawed Muslims, not the fault of perfect Islam.
Our criticism is not of Islam, a religion rooted in absolute justice. It is not of our noble institutions. It's of those who hide behind them.
And my solution is that, hey, why don't we just practice Islam properly? Why don't our imams just teach Islam properly so we can start avoiding all these rubbish discussions and exposing and cancel cultures?
So let's see if they're right by examining 3 potential scenarios of what happened between Aisha and Mohammed Hijab. Let's start with scenario 1, Aisha's version. According to her, a secret marriage occurred and Hijab misled her regarding what that marriage would actually be like. The first area where something might have gone wrong in the scenario was in Aisha's choice of husband. She was willing to consider marriage to Hijab in part because he was a prominent Muslim with a respected position in the Dawah scene she was involved in.
Mohammed Hijab for me was a representation of 23 years of Dawah. For me, he was a role model. He is knowledgeable, he is religious, he is pious, and he is praiseworthy. There is a testimony of hundreds of scholars around the world who are praising him. He was placed in a position of marriage counseling, divorce in the Islamic Council. This is the guy I got married to, and I thought, alhamdulillah, finally I am safe. Mohammed Hijab was the only man in this country I could ever possibly trusted this much.
Now, when it comes to marriage, Islam protects against potential harms to either party through the nikah, the ceremony where a man and woman sign a marriage contract. Generally speaking, the requirements include the consent of both parties, a mahr or dowry, 2 witnesses, typically one for the groom's side and one for the bride's side, and the presence of a wali, a man who acts as a representative of the bride's family. In this instance, Aisha claims the nikah took place over Zoom, of all things, with witnesses chosen by Hijab, and the wali, her father, was not present at Hijab's insistence, with the promise to meet with him later. It should be noted here that Aisha said her father did give her permission to get married, even though he wasn't present or aware that the nikah had taken place until much later. Instead, Hijab appointed a friend of his as her wali. The marriage was then consummated in a hotel room. Aisha still wanted Hijab to meet her father, but Hijab didn't want to because of the complications that in-laws can create on a marriage, and he claimed he wasn't Islamically obliged to, legally speaking. That's when it started to dawn on Aisha that Hijab wasn't interested in a real marriage.
I told him, are you going to change this for what you promised me at a later time? He said, no, this arrangement works the best for me, and I have no intention of changing it. As soon as he said that, I asked for divorce. He confirmed that he had no intention of paying the bills or the rent. He said, you didn't ask me for that when we were getting married. He will never change the hotel, ever. He will never speak to my family, ever. He's not going to be paying for anything. And we're not going to have kids. Not going to be taking care of my daughter. Nothing. We're never going to have a home.
It's also important to note here that Aisha believed that Hijab had promised a standard Islamic marriage, but he claimed to have agreed to a misyar marriage. In Islam, a misyar marriage is essentially a marriage of convenience where both parties agree to give up some marital rights, like living together or financial support.
I asked for divorce, and he gave it to me. And he was very angry. He said, why are you refusing something that is halal? This is misyar. Why are you not accepting it? He called it sex marriage. He called it a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship. And all of these things were mentioned after he got married to me. After he dragged me emotionally for years.
If this scenario is what happened, then Hijab used the woman for sex in a way that he believed was halal and told her what she needed to hear in order to make it happen. She was understandably upset and turned to sheikhs for their input on the matter to see if what Hijab had done was permissible.
So he followed a list of Islamic rulings, as he claims, and nothing of what he did was actually haram. It's Islamically all right to give false promises to a woman you intend to get married to. You're Islamically not obliged to fulfill those promises. You are not obliged Islamically to speak to your in-laws. You don't even have to ask for their blessings after the nikah and congratulations. It's Islamically okay to live in a hotel. A husband can go to wherever he wants with his wife. He's not obliged to pay for anything. He's not obliged to provide because I didn't need provision. It's Islamically okay not to have kids. It's Islamically okay to keep everything secret, to preserve the marriage. The shuyukh I reached out to them made me even more traumatized. Some of them said, he is right. All these things are halal, as long as the 4 pillars of nikah were met. You can't know what his intention is. But his intention is actually very clear. He openly and proudly said there is nothing wrong with marriage with the intention of divorce. And through deception, because actually a man is not obliged to Islamically fulfill his promises.
Here are my thoughts. In many ways, I can see how Islam's teachings could have prevented this marriage from happening. If Aisha hadn't agreed to hijab choosing the witnesses who, by the way, behind veils claims are too afraid to speak out to say the marriage actually happened, or agreeing to hijab picking the wali, then perhaps these parties would have objected to this marriage happening, and it wouldn't have happened in secret. Another point, even if all the requirements of nikah were followed, even if there was a miscommunication and hijab did genuinely think it was a misyar marriage, it still goes to the question of intention, of what hijab's intentions were. A misyar marriage is frowned upon if the man is motivated by lust, since this goes against the fundamental objective of marriage in Islam, establishing a family and raising Muslim children. And a sex motivation for hijab seems to be the case from his words and actions as described by Aisha. So Islam does have safeguards against these exploitations, but Aisha apparently had no recourse when she turned to the sheikhs for help. In her moment of most dire need, where the intentions of hijab in wronging her should have been at least assessed and questioned, no sheikh or sharia council came to her aid, and the Islamic system of justice, at least on the human side, failed her. No compensation or reparations were ordered of hijab, no excommunications or punishments of any kind were brought to him. This then takes me to something else. Even with all these Islamic safeguards, why did this awful scenario still happen to Aisha? Why was she willing to do a secret marriage when she was uncomfortable with one, and without her father after initially wanting him to be involved? It seems ill-advised, doesn't it? But she was willing to, because in her own words, she trusted hijab as a Muslim, a man of knowledge and stature. There are Muslims who will say hijab doesn't represent Islam, which is true, but it's also true that hijab is a prominent Muslim with power in his community, someone respected by many Muslims, men and women alike. And it is that trust that ensnared Aisha. Would she have trusted him on the secret marriage if she wasn't Muslim and he wasn't Muslim? Did having faith in that trust protect her and bring her happiness? These are questions we, and especially Muslims, should ponder. Another question, is this situation substantially different from a secular scenario, or let's say a Christian scenario where a powerful man exploits a woman? No. And that's my takeaway. Despite Islam's perfection, Muslim men can still exploit the system, find loopholes, and take advantage of women, and there can potentially be no real recourse or restitution for the exploited woman. Remember this point for later in the video. But next, let's examine another challenge for Muslims, for Islam in the scandal. Determining the truth, who to blame, and who to support. We've covered scenario 1 where we assume Aisha's story is true. However, there are other claims to the truth here. 2 other possible scenarios. Scenario 2, they never got married. Aisha proposed the idea of marriage and hijab declined it, leading to her fabricating the story of a secret marriage to disgrace him and get revenge. Scenario 3, Aisha and hijab did have a misyar marriage, but Aisha later changed her mind and wanted a marriage with full rights. And when hijab refused, she lashed out and accused him of manipulation and deceit. These are the most popular scenarios that I have seen in Muslim circles online, with scenario 2 being promoted by hijab and Ali Dawah.
No problem even being hand to hand with shaitan to getting this up.
Does he have any children, any kids himself?
Yes, and I'm making dua on them as well.
You're making dua on his children as well?
Yes. Their atoms, their cells, their bodies. Give him cancer.
Which human being would ever get and pick on innocent children unless you have psychological issues? Now let's break this down step by step of my occurrence and my wife's occurrence with this sister, where she messaged me, when I met her, what she said, and how I fell for her story.
Scenario 2 is also being promoted by the False Accusations channel, which claims to not be affiliated with hijab, and recently posted a new video with a recording it claims is Aisha saying she never actually married hijab.
So did you marry Hijab or not?
I didn't marry him, but if I told people this, they would think I'm crazy and so on.
Do you think this is fair on him and his family?
With all due respect to yourself, I can take my rights with my own hand.
Many of their followers agree that Aisha is a crazy liar. Others are crying out conspiracy theory, for example, that Aisha is a Mossad agent sent to discredit hijab. Scenario 3 is one that Muslims who aren't hijab or Ali Dawah subscribers seem to be more open to. Perhaps there was a secret misyar marriage and then there was a disagreement that got ugly. So in that scenario, do these Muslims believe both parties are equally to blame? Well, not quite.
So let's say Muhammad changed anything in the agreement, then yes, then he is to be blamed and blameworthy and wrong 100%. But if the sister changed and she wanted this and she wanted that and she started, then she is wrong.
Okay, sounds balanced, but this Muslim YouTuber devotes a considerable amount of time earlier in his video to explain this.
In general, as the Shariah's councils, we find that it's mostly women who initiate misyar marriages. Men are going to think like that. Why would I want to be with a woman? I'm in a successful position, really successful. Why would I want to be with a woman who's no one really? But then she says, wait a second. Now the Trojan horse comes in. I don't need money. I don't need a house. I don't need anything from you. I just want to be with you. So now the mind of the man goes, it's a pretty good idea. So you mean I don't have to do this, but I can just get some benefit? What's the benefit on all sides? Maybe some of the sisters and brothers who are very shocked by what I say right now would say, well, the benefit is that she gets to spend time with him and she gets bragging rights. And women love that. I am married to Mohammed Hijab.
Not quite as even-handed once you factor in him saying that it's mostly women who instigate misyar marriages, how they use it as a Trojan horse to tempt men. So what are viewers going to take from watching that video in terms of who's mainly to blame? I'll let you decide. But okay, this is a Muslim man. Aisha's fellow Muslim sisters will have her back, right?
This is just really unnecessary to be out in the public in the first place.
It was started in secret from what she has said herself. So yeah, keep it that way and there's no need to go public. I think if the accusations on both sides are true, then we can say mistakes have been made on both sides.
Wow. Just wow. The equivocation going on there about mistakes being made on both sides is stunning. If there was a secret marriage in the way that they're hypothesizing, the woman's mistake is that she trusted the wrong person. The man's mistake is that he abused that trust, which is much worse. As fellow women, can't they see why it might be necessary for a woman who has been exploited by a more prominent figure to go public? That perhaps it might be necessary because the system will benefit the more prominent person, especially since he's a man?
One thing I will say is, why feed the Islamophobes off the controversy? You know, when you could just get justice behind closed doors. The anti-Muslim bigots will use any isolated incident to unfairly paint our religion as a whole as being bad, especially right now when they're trying to grab onto anything to show Muslims are insane. No, and it's not true at all. It's not oppressive to women, and like we've said so many times about this, people do misuse it and people do take it wrongly, and women do victim blame themselves, do become the victim, things like that. And I think the lesson here is no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes.
Apparently their main concern lies somewhere other than Aisha's well-being. The problem with this perspective is that Aisha clarified she couldn't get justice when she tried with hijab or when she turned to the sheikhs who basically backed him up. This gets more frustrating when they even bring up that point.
We have Sharia councils all over the world, and we even now have a global Dawah council. So why, sister, are these issues not being handled in-house and behind the scenes to ensure justice for all parties involved? Because that was brought up. The sister has said that she has gone to sheikhs, she has gone to people for help. And this was her last resort, was to come public.
If someone went to, get assistance outside and they didn't get the outcome in here, the outcome they wanted, then they sort of like lash out as well. A lot of the times we can't accept what it needs to be. And those sometimes are hard truths about taking accountability, about dealing with it in a long term. And it does take time. It is a long process.
So to summarize, if Aisha didn't get the results she wanted from the sheikhs, then she should suck it up and move on and get over it. These women's full discussion is in the video description, and if you watch it all, there is very little in it that criticizes men like hijab. Instead, the recurring theme is that if you're a Muslim woman like Aisha, bring up your grievances privately, quietly. Don't make waves. Then focus on yourself and where you went wrong. And don't dare bring it public, because then Islam's reputation is sullied. There's this clear condemnation from them of Aisha being guilty. Guilty of not doing the proper due diligence. Guilty of compromising on her needs. So whether or not hijab did something bad almost seems irrelevant, because even when they claim they support Aisha, they're shifting the blame onto her, the woman. And then there's this lovely person who thinks both hijab and Aisha are in the wrong, saying, sure, that woman is also a whore, but what does that say about him that he affiliated with her? Keep in mind that whore comment and the perspectives of those Muslim YouTubers, as well as of Ali Dawah and Hijab. One of the dark, ugly realities that the Me Too movement brought out into the open was that women tend to be ignored or straight up not believed when they make accusations of abuse and exploitation, especially if it's towards a famous or wealthy man. But that's just the secular world, right? Well, without knowing all the facts of what happened, without knowing the whole truth, Muslims have a preoccupation with how Aisha is fully or partly at fault, and some just don't believe her at all. Following Islam is supposed to create a society where men and women are respected equals, or so Muslims will say. By comparison, secular Western societies exploit women, sexualizing them and disrespecting their integrity. Islam is supposed to protect women from such things, but it didn't protect Aisha. Either she was wronged and psychologically abused and got no restitution for it, or she's an obsessive stalker liar with psychological issues who deserves to be publicly shamed, depending on which Muslim you ask. And what advice do her Muslim sisters give her?
Fighting this person or fighting against, whatever wrong you think you have will not help. It will not change the situation. It will not help you move on. It will not help you build yourself back up. If anything, you're sitting in anger and resentment. And what you should do is leave it to Allah and move on.
This advice to leave it to Allah is the final topic I want to cover in this video. Another Muslim YouTuber who commented on this scandal in a more neutral way, Sajid Lipam, brought up an interesting hadith about the doubtful matters that exist beyond clear halal and clear haram.
Thus, he who avoids doubtful matters clears himself in regard to his religion and his honor, but he who falls into doubtful matters eventually falls into that which is unlawful.
He then talks about doubtful matters involving marriage, in a scenario perhaps similar to the Mohammed Hijab one.
Is there something that can be done that's sort of in between? Well, from the very outset, just keeping this hadith in mind, you should understand this is dangerous territory. Now, firstly, when it comes to being secretive about certain things, the Prophet ﷺ, he said that righteousness is good character, and wrongdoing, sin, is that which wavers in your heart, and you dislike that people should come to know about it.
Here's the inconvenient thing with the doubtful matters, the gray areas. That's where Muslims need Islam the most, where they're most vulnerable. And these gray areas are hard to avoid because that's just the nature of life. These doubtful matters are also where Islam is most shaky. Because in the end, in these murky scenarios, it often boils down to a he said, she said battle of truth, where perception becomes reality, even if it isn't the actual reality. I suspect that the supporters of Mohammed Hijab and the supporters of Aisha realize they're in a battle of perception, and they also realize their evidence isn't convincing all their fellow Muslims. Currently, they're stuck in a pattern of accusing the other side of things like twisting facts, faking screenshots, and fabricating AI-generated voice recordings. And so, to rectify this dispute, they turn, ironically, to an invisible God who offers no good evidence for his own existence. Right before filming This video, Mohammed Hijab posted a 47-minute video on his channel titled The Truth. Was there a comprehensive barrage of evidence that fully vindicates him in that video? No. It was just him reciting the Quran. Appealing to Allah by reciting the Quran is intended as a show of strength in Hijab's mind and the minds of many Muslims. But to me, it shows the impasse of Hijab's defense case, a dead end in the evidence he can provide. And by the way, since it was first posted, the video's title has been changed to Juz' Amma recitation. Who knows why? But instead of presenting the evidence that will fully vindicate him, he merely shares links to an anonymous YouTube channel with what looks to me like bits and pieces of the full story that are carefully selected to support him. Salman of Behind Veils has appealed to Allah's judgment multiple times in the videos he's posted about this scandal. Perhaps because it's a robotically automatic thing for Muslims to do, perhaps to sway his audience, perhaps both.
I have tried with every ounce of my faith to show the truth. But now I let Allah decide these matters. O Allah, for the people of sound hearts and those who truly believe in you, I ask you to open their hearts, and for the truth to be seen as truth, and for falsehood to be seen as falsehood.
From her perspective, Aisha was failed by Hijab and the sheikhs she sought for help. So in her own desperation and anger, Aisha has also called on Allah to vindicate her with mubahala, which is done when there's a serious dispute about the truth and both parties call to Allah to curse the liar and settle the matter.
You destroyed absolutely everything. You took away my health. You took away everything from me. And I'm going to tell you this. I am here. Come and face me. I am ready to come out for mubahala. Come out. Come out, give me just that mubahala, that dua.
This scandal doesn't prove Islam is evil, but it shows that Islam is not special. It's not divine. There's nothing that elevates it above human dramas, human limitations, human justice and injustice. Islam is corruptible just like anything else, and Islam is controlled by the perceptions and actions of its human followers just like anything else. So what do I offer instead, you may ask? I offer flawed human systems because they're all we ever have had and because they're ours, and that means we can fix them. If a system is broken, we call it out and we improve it. We don't excuse injustice by saying, leave it to God. We have only ourselves to lean on for justice and to treat each other well. Having a religion mixed up in it doesn't make things better. As we've seen, it's liable to only distract us or cause more harm. When it comes to a religion like Islam that's believed to be divine, that process of reforming it isn't easy. To make matters worse, its adherents, whether it's Hijab or Ali Dawah or Aisha or Salman of Behind Veils, they will claim that what they're doing and following is according to the perfect teachings and guidance of the Creator Allah. And they will believe themselves to be righteous when they do so. Try swaying someone who thinks that way. That's why we're here, watching Muslims appeal to Allah, not necessarily because they have truth on their side, but because they've run out of arguments to convince each other. And where is Allah in all of this? Where is His judgment to come in and address this scandal and curse the liars? Here's the tragedy of being Muslim. Allah is silent. Whether He doesn't exist, doesn't care, or is waiting to mete out judgment in the afterlife, their faith leaves them in the dark. And all Aisha or Hijab or anyone can do is cry out into that silence. And that's all from me. Is Islam at fault for the scandal? Is Islam a better path to truth? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like this video, and if you haven't already, please subscribe. You can also support this channel through Patreon or PayPal. Links are in the description below. I'm Secular Spirit, and I'll be back with another video very, very soon.